All right, welcome to another deep dive, and this one is built specifically for you from the ground up.
That's right.
You sent us pages 354 through 361,
Yeah.
and what we noticed right away is that these pages are wrestling with some pretty foundational questions
Uh-huh.
about who we are and the nature of the reality that we inhabit.
Really foundational?
Yeah, it's like peeling back the layers on existence,
Oh, wow.
consciousness, and this interconnected web that we call the universe, right?
Yeah.
So our mission here is to kind of navigate these complex ideas together, drawing directly from your text,
Right.
and hopefully emerge with some surprising clarity, those aha moments,
Yeah.
without getting too lost in jargon.
Absolutely. And what I think is so interesting about these pages right off the bat is that
Yeah.
they introduce this concept of Ia, or what's also referred to as Leia centers.
Okay.
And the text really positions this as like absolutely fundamental to understanding esoteric teachings about humanity.
Okay. So Ia or Leia centers.
Yeah.
These are the cornerstone.
That's right.
It sounds like we should be paying attention to this. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the text even kind of hints at the fact that it might be a little bit dense.
Uh-huh.
So what's the essence of Ia here?
Well, so the text gives us this analogy of light passing through semi-transparent concave mirrors.
Okay.
And so each of these mirrors represents like a different world,
Okay.
a different plane of existence.
Okay.
And then the beam of light itself, the light that's passing through all these mirrors, that's Atman. It's
Right.
like the universal self, the soul that kind of pervades everything, right?
Right.
And then when this light hits these various mirrors, it creates individual reflections, right? And
Got
each
it.
of those individual images, those are the E's of those worlds.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, it's like
Yeah.
these E's are like
Yeah.
individual sparks or focal points of this universal energy, Atman,
Yeah.
each existing within its own unique reality.
Precisely. And here's where I think it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because the text tells us that each Ia, much like Atman itself and the divine, is aware of itself through its reflection. So it's this idea that it sort of recognizes itself through how it manifests in these different mirrors, in these different worlds.
Okay.
So if you think about it, each Ia is essentially a section, a localized expression of Atman.
Mhm.
And this allows Atman, this vast, incomprehensible force,
Yeah.
to kind of know and experience itself through its seemingly countless individual forms.
So wow, it's like the universe in all of its complexity, almost like Atman looking at itself from an infinite number of angles.
It is.
Okay, that's a perspective shift right there.
Yeah.
Now the text then moves into talking about Atman itself and its influence on us.
Yeah.
Talks about this power flowing into our being.
That's right.
What is that all about?
Yeah, so the text emphasizes that even though Atman is ultimately unknowable and beyond our full comprehension, it's really the source of our vitality.
Yeah.
So it continuously pours its power into our entire being,
Okay.
providing us with that capacity to live, to move, and I think crucially to strive and to evolve. It's like, it's like this invisible current that animates us.
Okay, so it's like we're all powered by this hidden universal battery, basically.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now within this section, there's a really powerful quote
Okay.
that stood out to us, and it says, "You carry within you the highest friend, whom you do not know, for God dwells within every person, but few can find him."
Yeah, that's a really powerful quote.
What resonates with you most about that?
I think what really resonates with me is this inherent potential
Yeah.
that it's suggesting within each of us.
Mhm.
The idea that the divine isn't some far-off entity,
Yeah.
but an intrinsic part of our very being.
Yeah.
Yet so many of us remain undiscovered, right?
Yeah.
It really speaks to this journey of inner exploration.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not about searching externally,
Right.
but about turning inwards, right? And the text connects this to the idea of sacrifice,
Mm-hmm.
of aligning our desires and actions.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah, so the text proposes that by dedicating our desires and actions to that fundamental self, one, the source from which all things originate, right?
Okay.
We kind of move towards a state of perfection.
Okay.
And this isn't about deprivation,
Right.
but about a reorientation, right?
Yeah.
So when a person finds that inherent happiness, that inner joy and light within themselves, that's described as achieving union with God.
Okay, so it's about this internal transformation.
Yeah.
This focusing of our energy and intention towards this central source.
Right.
Rather than like external practices or something.
That's a strong implication in the text. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and the reward for this profound inner work,
Yeah.
for truly finding the divine spark within is equally profound.
Yes.
It's liberation from the cyclical nature of birth and death.
right.
Freedom from suffering and attainment of what's poetically called the water of immortality.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a powerful motivator right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so from these foundational ideas of Era and Atman,
Right.
the text kind of transitions to talking about the nature of elements and our experience of them.
Yeah.
It feels like we're moving from the cosmic to the more elemental, in a sense.
Right. In a way, yes.
Yeah.
So the text explains that each element isn't just like a basic building block of the physical world, but rather it's an aspect of spirit itself,
Okay.
imprinted in a specific form and carrying a unique tonality within a particular world or plane of existence.
Okay. Spiritual signature for each element.
You could think of it that way. Yeah.
That's a fascinating way to think about it.
Yeah.
So when do these elements actually come into being in our experience?
Well, according to the text, an element truly comes into being for us when we as individuals confirm its necessity through our own direct experience.
Okay.
So it's very deeply linked to our existing knowledge and the completion of what are termed idea complexes.
Okay. Idea complexes. So that's like our pre-existing
Yeah,
mental frameworks or concepts
exactly.
we hold about the world.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. So when our experience validates these frameworks
Okay.
and we recognize the necessity of an element within them,
Uh-huh.
it kind of solidifies in our reality.
So it's not just that elements exist out there,
Right.
but our interaction with the world
Yeah.
and our conceptual understanding
That's right.
plays a crucial role in their manifestation,
Right.
in our personal reality.
Absolutely.
It's almost like we co-create our experience
Yeah.
of these fundamental forces.
A key insight from the text.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And then this leads directly into what the text calls the law of atrophy.
The law of atrophy.
Yeah. Okay. So this law states that when we have a genuine need
Okay.
to know or interact with the external world,
Uh-huh.
a new capacity for communication or perception arises, right? To meet that need.
Uh-huh.
And conversely, if that need or the opportunity for actively using that capacity disappears,
Yeah.
the capacity itself can fade away.
Right.
It moves from our active experience
Right.
into the realm of potentiality.
It's like our senses or even learned skills. If we
Yeah.
don't use them, we lose them.
Right.
But necessity can also drive the development of new abilities.
That's right.
That has profound implications for how we engage with the world around us
It does.
and what we choose to focus on, right?
Indeed. Indeed.
Okay, now shifting gears slightly.
Yeah.
The text introduces this really compelling duality within the human soul.
Right.
It calls it the red and black aspects.
Mm.
Now, it's important to understand that this isn't a moral judgment, right?
Yeah. It's not about good versus evil.
Not about good and evil, but about two
Right.
fundamental and complementary ways of being.
That's right.
Okay, red and black, that's a striking contrast.
Yeah.
What are the defining characteristics of each?
Well, the red aspect is described as constantly giving,
Okay.
radiating energy outwards.
Mm-hmm.
It's portrayed as free and unconstrained, symbolized by untied hands.
Okay.
And its associated elements are fire and earth.
Okay.
Fire representing that active manifestation, the outward expression of energy.
Okay.
And earth provides structure, stability, and form to that energy.
So the red is the active, the expressive force within us.
Exactly.
The one that initiates and shapes our interactions with the world.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, the black aspect is the receiver
Okay.
energy. So it constantly absorbs the energy that's radiated by the active red side.
Okay.
It's described as lacking inherent freedom, so hands tied, and its corresponding elements are water and air.
Okay.
And air, in this context, represents separation, the ability to classify, analyze,
Okay.
knowledge gained from the world through observation.
Mm-hmm.
And water is the realm of potential, the capacity to be shaped and realized through this acquired knowledge.
So the black is the more receptive, the analytical side,
Right?
taking in information,
That's right.
holding the potential for understanding and growth.
Precisely. And the text makes a really vital point here, which is that intuition, which is linked to the red aspect
Okay.
and reason, which is associated with the black aspect, aren't actually opposed,
Okay.
but they're inherently inseparable.
Right.
They each follow their own distinct paths,
Huh?
and they operate different ways,
Yeah.
but both are absolutely essential
Yeah.
for human progress and our journey towards greater understanding.
So we need both the initial spark of intuition
Yeah.
and the grounding and analytical power of reason to truly move forward, right?
That's right.
It's a dance between feeling and thought.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the ultimate aim, according to the text, is the harmonious union of these seemingly opposing forces.
Okay.
So heaven and earth, great and small, higher and lower, outer and inner, all converging to allow us to reach eternal knowledge and eternal truth.
Wow. Okay.
So this dynamic interplay between the red and black aspects is fundamental to that entire process.
That's a beautiful way of framing the integration of our intuitive and rational faculties. Right. Okay, so next, the text goes on to discuss consciousness itself.
Okay.
And this concept of the breath of Ea.
Uh-huh.
How does our awareness relate to this breath of Ea?
Well, the text states that our human consciousness acts as the boundary, the furthest reach of the breath of Ea.
Uh-huh.
So Ea itself is described as eternally living,
Yep.
a constant, unwavering presence. But our individual consciousness is in a state of perpetual motion.
Okay.
Constantly shifting and evolving.
So our consciousness is like a fleeting expression within this eternal flow of Ea's breath.
That's a useful way to visualize it, yeah.
Okay.
And the text emphasizes that someone whose awareness is solely bound to the earthly, to the purely physical realm, cannot transcend this limited physical consciousness.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So to grasp the broader picture here, the text references the layered symbolism of the square pentacle of Arcanum the Seven.
Okay.
In relation to how Ea operates across different planes of existence.
Okay.
So Ati, Anupadaka, and Atma.
Okay, layers of reality.
Yeah.
It sounds like our everyday awareness is only scratching the surface.
Indeed.
Okay.
And consciousness, according to the text, coordinates these different planes not through its inherent nature, but through the attributes by which it manifests.
Okay.
So namely, its capacity for freedom and the constraints that it operates under.
Yeah.
And this is illustrated by contrasting our experience of time in the physical world with that in the astral world.
Okay.
So for us in the physical, time feels linear, fixed, irreversible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the astral realm, time is more of an abstract principle, subjective to experience, and even capable of moving in reverse.
So consciousness experiences reality in fundamentally different ways.
That's right.
Depending on the plane it's operating on. That challenges our everyday perception of something as basic as time.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
And the life of Atman, that eternal breath that we were talking about, expresses itself for our physical consciousness through a vertical oscillation of the plane of consciousness. Okay. So what lies above this plane, moving towards Atman, is considered the realm of what is truly real. And what lies below represents potentiality, the unmanifested.
So our current awareness is just a slice of a much grander reality.
That's right.
And its potential scope expands as we evolve, and our consciousness develops greater reach.
Precisely.
Okay.
And the text goes on to describe how the amplitude, the extent of this oscillation of consciousness increases as we develop.
Yep.
So in the early stages of evolution, like in amorphous matter, existence is characterized by automatic properties and reflexes within the purely physical world. As the amplitude grows, consciousness begins to touch the astral plane. Which the text links to the first stirrings of reason as seen in crystals.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. And then further development sees consciousness reach the mental plane, associated with the plant kingdom, then the buddhi plane, the realm of the animal kingdom, and finally the fourth world, which marks the birth of humanity as a projection of pure spirit.
So it's like consciousness gradually awakening and expanding its perception to encompass more and more of the of the spectrum of reality.
Yeah.
Each kingdom representing a significant leap in awareness.
That's That's an insightful way to put it.
Okay.
And the text even outlines a future trajectory for this evolution. So consciousness eventually reaches the very limits of Ea itself, achieving full projection of its potential, culminating in a final incarnation as a great initiate embodying pure spirit.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And then following this, there's a voluntary transcendence, leading to the ability to move consciousness entirely beyond the confines of physical Ea.
That sounds like the ultimate path of spiritual enlightenment.
Right.
This gradual unfolding of our innate conscious potential leading to liberation from the physical limitations that we currently experience.
It does.
Okay. And the text concludes this section by describing immortal human life not as a continuous earthly existence, but as an alternating rhythm between earthly lives and dwelling in the vastness of space. All driven by the pulsating breath of physical Ea.
So it's this ebb and flow that draws consciousness into and out of the physical realm.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So this eternal breath of Ea underpins everything.
It does.
And our consciousness is this dynamic, evolving expression within it, oscillating and expanding as we progress.
Exactly.
Now let's try to grasp this concept of curve of consciousness.
Okay.
What is that all about?
Right. So from the limited perspective of someone currently grounded in the physical world, the degree of consciousness can be visualized as a continuous curve derived from a sine wave.
And the portions of this curve that dip below the central axis represent those periods between our incarnations, times when our consciousness is not actively projected into the physical dimension.
So those lower parts of the curve are like our offstage moment.
You could think of it that way,
in the cosmic play.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then within a single lifetime, the text describes a pattern of development, a gradual ascent to a critical peak of awareness, which is then followed by a subsequent decline. And it emphasizes that the full potential of consciousness specific to that particular incarnation is only fully realized momentarily at that peak point.
Wow. Okay.
Which is also identified as the moment when the plane of consciousness reverses its direction.
So that moment of peak awareness is fleeting, right? It's a pivotal turning point in a single life. It makes you wonder how often we actually reach that full potential and what it truly feels like.
It certainly raises profound questions about the nature of our experience and the possibilities within each life. And then the text goes on to establish a direct relationship between consciousness and awareness, stating that awareness is essentially the time derivative of consciousness measured according to the principle of relativity.
So awareness is the dynamic aspect, the speed of change.
That's right.
Within our consciousness. As it navigates our being and our experiences.
Precisely.
Okay, now let's move on to talking about the development of self-consciousness. And individuality. This is where the text really begins to differentiate the human experience from that of other beings, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the text asserts that human history, in a meaningful sense, begins when we first develop an awareness of our, quote, royal dignity on Earth. This sense of unique importance and self-awareness that sets us apart. And it draws a contrast with the animal kingdom, where each species exhibits a relatively fixed character, right? With behaviors largely driven by heredity.
That's right.
Individuality is minimal. And there's a strong herd instinct. Although this begins to lessen in more evolved animal forms. So while animals operate more within the framework of their species, humans possess this unique spark of individual self-recognition and a sense of personal agency.
Absolutely.
And the text also highlights the deep connection animals feel with their environment, a strong sense of being part of nature, perhaps even more so than the average human. And interestingly, the text suggests that the very awareness of alienation from nature
Okay.
That feeling of separateness is the initial step towards the development of individual consciousness in humans. So that feeling of being distinct, of not just being an automatic part of the natural world, that's the seed of our individual journey of self-discovery.
Exactly.
Okay, now, how does this all relate to universal consciousness?
Right. So the text explains that while an individual's consciousness and will are indeed connected to the consciousness and will of their constituent elements. Think back to the elements we were discussing. The fact that our whole consciousness participates in every single experience intensifies the unique individuality of our feelings.
So we're not just a collection of parts.
Right.
There's a unifying conscious force that imbues our experiences with a distinct personal flavor.
Exactly. And individuality, according to the text, isn't solely determined by that inherent spark of Atman within us, which provides like a general blueprint, but also by our level of development at any given moment in our journey.
So our sense of self is both something we're born with and something that continuously evolves and refines through our experiences.
So the text concludes by stating that each person, in essence, lives within their own unique world, perceiving a vast array of feelings. And the fundamental goal then becomes to translate this inner world of potentiality into tangible reality through our actions and our understanding. And this brings us back to the doctrine of self-knowledge within the astral realm.
So as we progress on our evolutionary path, we encounter the world through a spectrum of different feelings.
That's right.
And the key is to deeply understand both the harmonious aspects and the entirety of those experiences in order to gain deeper self-awareness.
That's right.
We perceive any object or experience not just through its agreeable or harmonizing aspects, but through the lens of our entire being. Constantly striving to study that experience and understand ourselves through its subtle nuances, its tonalities. Echoing back to our earlier discussion of the elements. So it's a continuous and intertwined process of experiencing the world and simultaneously discovering ourselves.
It's remarkable how these few pages manage to weave together such profound ideas about the fundamental nature of reality, consciousness, and our individual selves, from the cosmic scale of Ini and Atman to the intimate experience of our own feelings. It's all presented as interconnected. It is, the text offers a vision of a universe where everything is fundamentally linked from the highest spiritual principles down to the most personal aspects of our experience.
Our consciousness isn't a fixed entity.
That's right.
But a dynamic and ever-evolving process. Constantly interacting with both the external world and our own inner landscape.
Exactly.
So as you, our listener, continue your day, perhaps consider the interplay between those active, outward-reaching aspects of yourself, your intuition and your expressions, and those more receptive, inward-focused qualities, your reason and your inner reflections. How do these two sides work in your own life? And maybe ponder this idea, suggested by the text, that true growth and understanding might lie in finding a balance in the development of both.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.